Hey, are you interested in knowing what's going on now with psychedelics and veterans? Well, if you are, you're in luck. This video is for you because I've got Matt Zemon here today with me. Matt is an educator, author, and leader in psychedelic wellness, and that's what we're really going to drill down on today. So I appreciate you joining us today, Matt. So, this is Eddie with a Mindful Emergence, where Margaret and I offer mindfulness, movement, and breathing practices for those seeking healing and transformation. Most of our work now is with plant medicine. So, today, as I mentioned, I've got Matt Zemon with me today. Matt is from the Chapel Hill area of North Carolina. He specializes in the impact of psychedelics on mental health. He's the author of the best-selling book, Psychedelics for Everyone, A Beginner's Guide to Those Powerful Medicines for Anxiety, Depression, Addiction, PTSD, and Expanding Consciousness Beyond the Trip, and a newly released book, The Veteran's Guide to Psychedelics. Matt focuses on broadening understanding and access to these transformative substances while consulting with healthcare practitioners to advance the responsible integration of psychedelic therapies into modern treatment frameworks. His work is especially relevant for veterans and those seeking deep personal transformation. So, how did you get involved with this, Matt?
Eddie, Jesse Gould, who runs the Heroic Hearts Project, reached out to me. He was at a clinic up in a treatment center up in Oregon and saw a veteran using one of my journals. And he asked if we could collaborate on a book together. And we ended up collaborating on what became the Veteran's Guide to Psychedelics. It's been an incredible journey over the last year to get this out and into the hands of veterans.
And what's the most significant thing that you've learned about this in this process?
I think what has been astounding for me is understanding that more than 17 US veterans kill themselves every day. And that if we look at the time periods from 9/11 until today, over 7,000 US service members have died in combat. So that's an awful number. But more than 30,000 US service members and veterans have taken their lives in that same period. So it's almost four times the number. And why is this happening? Part of the reason is that we have the SSRI antidepressants, the most common drug prescribed. It just doesn't work on enough people. And this is the problem that science is trying to solve for. And this is where those MDMA trials that we've talked about, um, and for your audience, MDMA, you might have heard of it as Molly or ecstasy. Well, they gave veterans or people actually with treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder 3 sessions of MDMA with therapy before and after, and over 71% emerged without having a PTSD diagnosis. So again, these is treatment resistant, which means they've tried all of the talk therapies and the pharmacological solutions and nothing's worked. And finally, something's worked. And I wish there was enough information for the FDA to approve this medicine.
Yeah, I know.
It's not yet, but
We
it
thought it was
will
going to
be. It
happen
gives
this
us
summer, didn't we?
it gives us a hint of what's coming.
Yeah. What is it about MDMA that makes it so effective that you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think MDMA and psilocybin, a lot of people, I think in our Western culture, we think of these medicines as cures. And that's the wrong way to, in my opinion, it's the wrong way to think about psychedelics. Psychedelics are catalysts. They're not cures. So they're catalysts for making meaning. So if we look at psilocybin as an example, Johns Hopkins gave people who've never done psychedelics psilocybin, and I think it was 77% said it was one of the top five most meaningful experiences in their lives. And it wasn't that they took the medicine and just meaning was handed to them. They were put into a state where they could make meaning happen. With MDMA, it reduces the people with and I stick with the people with a treatment resistant PTSD. It reduces the filters of shame, blame, and guilt while it's raising up emotions and traumas. And when we put that together, people are able to look at those experiences differently through a different lens. They're able to rewrite their own stories, and then they're able to emerge with a different healing, a different perspective for the world. So I think MDMA in particular is really, really powerful for that kind of work with trauma. And we're seeing that up with like the Mithofers up and the Pearl Institute up where you're from, Eddie.
Yeah. And Midhoffer's just right up the road from us.
Hmm.
And they've done A
incredible
lot of
work.
work to try to get this FDA approved.
Yeah, and it's politics and it's
It's
and
a
it's
slog, isn't it?
it's a slog, but yeah, I'm hopeful, optimistic that it's just a matter of time.
Hmm.
And I want to remind people that for some of these humans living with treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder, time is not on their side.
No.
So
Yeah.
sooner would be better.
I did want to mention that, of course, ayahuasca is one medicine that also people are using. And I am putting a link in the description along with the website for Matt. But I'm putting a link to another video I did with a gentleman who actually went to South America. He's a veteran who suffered extreme trauma in while being deployed abroad.
Mm.
And there's a program going on down there using ayahuasca. So there are a lot of medicines that can be used.
Yeah, and
Um,
Eddie, there's a bunch of I mean,
yeah.
there's really a number of nonprofits that have stepped up to help veterans where either the medical system or the VA is falling short. So
Mhm.
Heroic Hearts Project is the one I've been working with, but Vets, the Mission Within, are the one you referenced are all examples, and they're sending our veterans to places where they can access legal psychedelics. So that can be Central or South America. You said Colombia. I went to Peru with a group of veterans. Mexico gets a bunch of them, and it can also be Oregon. But
Mhm.
they're sending them there, and two things are happening. They're having these big emotional breakthrough experiences where insights, awakenings, awarenesses happen. That's beautiful. And most of these nonprofits are raising funds so that they can also make sure that those veterans have coaching or therapy following those sessions so that they can integrate
Yeah.
those awakenings, insights, and awarenesses into their life and make real, meaningful, lasting change happen.
Yeah. Talk more about integration. Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, for people again who aren't familiar with this, integration are the is the time spent um where taking whatever occurred to you or you came up during the ceremonies and then processing it and finding how do I understand it? How do I deploy whatever that is? And how do I make that make those behavioral and emotional changes in my life? Um, what the research shows, whether it's Johns Hopkins, NYU, Imperial College, is that if you just do the psychedelics and you don't move into an integration process, the efficacy, the fall off ratio is much, much, much higher than if you have some type of integration. And it doesn't have to be a licensed therapist. It can be, but it can also be a coach. It can be a spiritual community. There's lots of ways to do integration. These books that I'm putting out are have kind of a do-it-yourself integration piece with them, or you can do it yourself with a coach or a therapist. But either
Mhm.
way, um, we have this 30 days of neuroplasticity following these big experiences. And it's a great way to retrain our minds on the positive
Yeah.
and um, put in behaviors that help us achieve whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. One quick thing, there's also the um, best practice of 2 weeks following a ceremony, don't make major life decisions. And that's part of the integration
Right.
process. That just slow down. If it's super important, it'll be important in 2 weeks and you can make those changes.
Yeah. Do they talk about meditation much? Because, pardon me, I'm a meditation teacher, and in the work that
Mhm.
we do in preparing people, I encourage people to start doing at least a short daily practice. Talk about that, what you have
Totally
experienced.
agree. I mean, if people, the more we can prepare our minds and our bodies for these experiences, the again, the better. Now, do you have to? No. But if you
Mhm.
can do a little bit of mindfulness to prepare for the surrendering piece, the paying attention to what's going on,
Right.
in many cases, the more effective the actual ceremony
Sure.
is. I
What kind of
certainly have
stories am
seen
I telling myself? Yeah.
exactly what kind of
Yeah.
stories am I telling myself? Am I aware of being aware?
Hmm.
And yeah, then how do I process whatever that is? But though, yeah,
Hmm.
meditation in advance is super important. And then post, we highly encourage people to have some type of mindfulness practice following ceremony. It can be true meditation, it can be yoga, it can be journaling, it can be all sorts of things. But It's just a good life practice.
Yeah. So talk about the body and trauma and psychedelics, what you've learned.
Yeah, so there, I mean, The Body Keeps the Score is a beautiful book that
Yeah.
talks about how um we have these scars, these things that we carry um as we move forward. So when I look at well, let's switch topics here to end of life. So people are using psychedelics who are have been given some type of terminal diagnosis where they know that the psychedelic's not going to change the outcome. All it can possibly do is change the quality of life that they
Mhm.
have left. And New York University gave a bunch of cancer patients that was MDM, that was psilocybin, and they saw reductions in depression and anxiety and hopelessness. And when they asked the patients, the volunteers, what they saw, is they understood what they were carrying. They understood their mortality more. They were able to accept it differently, and then they were able to take that understanding and have different conversations with their family members that were important to have. So there was forgiveness and love. Um, all from this process. What's super cool, as long as we're on this topic, in ceremonial space, in the space that I spent a lot of time working in, it's common not just to give the psychedelic to the person dying, but to their friends and family, the people bearing witness. There's a phase 2 trial happening right now up at Sunstone up in Baltimore, where they're giving MDMA not just to the cancer patient, but to one loved person. And that's really
Hmm.
exciting research. I can't wait to see what the scientific community says in relation to what we've been doing in the ceremonial side for a long time.
Hmm. That's so interesting. I did not know about that study, that work. Pardon me, I got some tea down the wrong pipe there.
That happens.
Yeah. Um, so I had a question poised in the back of my head. I may need to pull another one out. Um, how did you are not a veteran? Why get involved with veteran work?
Yeah, really, when I've known Jesse Gould and the work that Heroic Hearts Project has done for years, and I've watched and admired the work. And when he called and said, we really need something that speaks to veterans, that's written in their language. And actually, that's a funny story. I wrote the first version of this veterans guide I wrote, and my wife said, "You didn't write this for the veterans. You wrote this for your friends. This is not accessible language. This is not language for someone who has TBI or concussions or post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not accessible enough. Do it again. Put in checklists, make the font bigger, make it easier to understand." And I love that process. And it was really yeah, she was right. She was just right. And then not only did we put this together, I was able to work with a guy named Ken Weingard, who is PhD psychologist, worked with the VA for 20 years. And he and I co-wrote a coaching and therapist version of this book.
Hmm.
And that's super fun to know that. I mean, for a therapist or a coach, it gives preparation integration sessions broken down into the 10 minutes with the rubrics and the emails and all kind of everything they
Hmm.
need to be successful working with veterans from somebody who's done a ton of work. The other shout out I would do is Jared Reinhardt, who is the head of integration for Heroic Hearts Project. He had a ton of great insights from the veteran perspective that we put into this book.
Are you finding that mental health providers, therapists, psychiatrists, and people at the VA, are they opening their minds up more to the fact that these medicines can be used therapeutically, effectively in the right setting?
Absolutely. I spent some time up at Walter Reed recently with Captain Bob Kaufman, who's a retired Navy captain, psychiatrist, almost 40 years of military service, multiple deployments. And I was really surprised to hear his journey and how he went from being kind of a traditional clinician to studying psychedelic. He saw kind of the benefits of psychedelics on an overseas trip and then started studying it and is an advocate. And he's trying to work from within. So he's not trying to promote these underground items, but he is saying like, let's use ketamine since that's available, and
Hmm.
let's start studying these medicines so that the Department of Defense and the VA can use this as a tool. And I love Him in this book that we put together, two different generals and an admiral all supported this and said, we've seen firsthand the wounds of war, the invisible scars that these veterans carry, and we know that we're failing them. And again, if the antidepressants work for somebody, that's amazing. I'm not saying I'm not pill shaming anybody, but when they don't work and they don't work on more than half, it's not the person failing the medicine, it's the medicine failing the person. We need more tools, and we haven't had any new tools in, I don't know, 50 years.
The clock is ticking.
Hmm.
If there are any veterans watching this, and it will happen,
Hmm.
what do you want to say to them?
Yeah, so you're not alone, that there are other options. Right now, these nonprofits are your best bet. You can, if you happen to be in a city where there's a clinical trial, that's a great option as well. But going to, again, Heroic Hearts Project, Vets, The Mission Within would be just three right off the top. Apply. Heroic Hearts as an example, they raise money all year so that they can send vets who can't afford it on 100% scholarship.
Mm,
So this isn't about pricing. This is about access. And those are three that you might want to look up. If you're not sure on whether you even want to do this, I'm not selling this book because I make any money. 100% of the proceeds, by the way, of this book, 100% goes to Heroic Hearts Project.
mm,
The
beautiful.
whole beginning part of this book is really designed for you, the veteran, to decide whether you want to continue and even do a psychedelic. It talks about the risks, the things you should be aware of, kind of the process. And then if after reading that, yeah, I want to do this, then it gives you tons of things to prepare and to integrate. But yeah, it's a good starting point for anyone thinking about psychedelics, whether you're thinking about ketamine, an underground therapist, a retreat experience to Jamaica or somewhere else, or working with one of these veterans groups and going to Central South America or Oregon.
Do you have any events coming up, any educational things, anything happening that obviously this is time sensitive? We're
Mm.
recording this in the middle of November, but um, how can people get a hold of you, find out what you're doing? What would you like to share about that?
Yeah, so all these books, Amazon is the best way. If you go to Amazon, you can find all the Veterans Guide, the big psychedelics for everyone. If you go to mattzemon.com, I do have all sorts of resources and videos there. I'm really active on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, those are
Sure.
two great places. And then if you're looking for a speaker to come in and talk, I love doing that kind of work. And if you're looking for bulk books, I mean, that's really what we're seeing. We had a person place a $10,000 order this week for books, for clinics. If you're dealing with this population, these are great books to give away. And we have incredibly we can remove the middleman on the bulk order. So mattzemon.com is where all that information is.
Wonderful. Well, this is great work. It's so badly needed. Obviously, that's the understatement of the year. And I appreciate you personally.
Mm, I
I'm not a
appreciate
veteran.
you. Yeah,
Well, I'm not a veteran, but I know people who have decided to fold up the game board and go home because that were veterans, and it's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking, and for anybody to give up hope, and there is hope, isn't there?
absolutely. There
Yeah,
is hope. These medicines work for, again, the medicine with the integration process is showing that it works. And can we just
yeah,
quickly I want to just stress that one more time. The integration process is so important um, to this being effective that when the drug company that's trying to get MDMA approved went for regulatory approval, they married the two things together, and that's unheard of in drug
yeah.
development. So again, what I encourage the veterans out there and anyone listening, anyone thinking about I want to work with psychedelics listening, it's a process. It's not a miracle pill. It's
It's
not a
not a magic
miracle
bullet.
cure. It's a process. And if you think of it as a process, there's lots of ways to be successful with this tool.
Well, thank you for joining me today. And those of you who are watching this, I'm going to put Matt's website and that link to Operation Purify, the
Mm,
other program, in the website. I really encourage any of you who are interested in this to contact Matt or look into these organizations that he's talked about. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up.
Mm.
We love it when people can leave comments, and I'll make sure that Matt is aware of any comments that come through on my end. And if you want to reach him, you'll be able to do it through his very easy to navigate
Mhm.
website, I should say. It's a beautiful site. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for listeners for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Eddie, thanks for having me on.
All right. So I'm ended the video and you're still here, so we can just
Yeah.
chat
Your
afterwards.
recording's still on though.